In this series of video tutorial, we are going to discuss another chapter of your science book, that is separation of substances. Now let's get started. So in this first topic, we are going to discuss about 5 subtopics, which are process of threshing, process of winnowing, process of hand picking, process of sieving, and process of magnetic separation. Now the first one is process of threshing. The process of separating grains from the husk is called threshing. As you can see in this picture, in this process the husk or the stalks are beaten on the ground to separate the grains from the harvested crop, and it can be done by hand and by machine. Now the next is process of winnowing. The process of separating of heavier or lighter components of a mixture by wind or blowing air is called winnowing. In this picture, you can see that in this process, the husks which are lighter are carried away by wind, and the heavier particles like grains of wheat falls vertically downward. This method doesn't require any machine. It is completely based on human activity. Now the next one is process of hand picking. So the undesirable components are just picked up by hand, and this process is called hand picking. Small stones, unwanted grains, and many other impurities are separated from rice, wheat, pulses by this process. This method doesn't require any machine. It is completely based on human activity. Now the next is process of sieving. This process is used when there is a need of separation of smaller and larger solid particles. So in this process, the smaller component passes through the pores of sieve, whereas the larger components is left behind in it. Now the next is process of magnetic separation. In this process, magnet is moved over a mixture. As a result, the magnetic material sticks to it and is removed. As you can see here, that sulfur and iron are mixed together, and when the magnet is moved over them, as a result, the iron particles sticks to the magnet and the iron particle is removed from the sulfur. Now we are going to discuss our next topic, which is about separation of water soluble solid. This topic contains two main subtopics, which are evaporation and condensation. So now we will see how evaporation and condensation helps in separation of water soluble solids. At first, evaporation. So the removing of water from a mixture either by heating on flame or direct sunlight. So as you can see that there is a mixture of water and salt in kettle. After evaporating water, the only remaining residue is salt, and this is the process of obtaining salt from the seawater. Now the second one is condensation. The process of conversion of water into its liquid form is called condensation. This process is just opposite of evaporation. Now the third topic, which is about separation of insoluble solids from liquid. This topic contains three main subtopics, which are sedimentation, decantation, and filtration. So we will see how these processes will help in separation of insoluble solids from liquid. First one is sedimentation. Process of settling down of heavier and insoluble components from mixture is called sedimentation. As you can see here, when mud is mixed in water, the mud settles down after a while and this setting down of heavier particle in liquid is called sedimentation. Now, the second one is decantation. So, the process of transferring clean liquid without disturbing the sediment is called decantation. Now, what sediment is? The solid particle that settles down during sedimentation are called sediments. Now, the last one is filtration. In this process, the impurities are passed through a filter. The filter has pores in it that allow only liquid to pass through. As you can see here, the impure water is passing through filter, which is filter paper, and as a result of this process, clean water is obtained. And from this content, I hope you all understand the chapter separation of substances, and soon we will discuss another chapter in the next video.